And we are now live. So, main reason I decided to do this stream today is because my Eptalk screenwriting class got canceled. So, I decided to, push it up to today and then focus tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday on a lot of midterm papers and stuff. There's some stuff that I am watching right now, like revise. Watched Breaking Bad for that Eptalk screenwriting class at the beginning of the month, and that was assigned for last week. And I also just watched Better Call Saul, which is the spin-off of Breaking Bad, this morning for my Quality TV class, because last week, those things, Revise, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and Vulcan and Valkyrie, which I also watched last night. Those 4 things, which I've already watched, I'm going to postpone to next month, just so traditionally I wouldn't have 6 or 8 episodes before I begin thinking about Toku. That's kind of how it's always been. Even when I was back at the start of Lupin Ninja Pattern, I started doing really more into TV film aspect of stuff. But yeah, but then I have 2 more assignments, 2 more reading, 2 more side stuff. For queer film I'm doing on my own. I chose 2 4-language films after Philadelphia. Chevelle and Happy Together. Planning on doing Happy Together this weekend for the second paper. So yeah, Happy Together will be next month, and then Chavella will be for Clown Christmas Party. Without further ado, we're talking Toku. So off top, as I said, Revise will be next month. Zenkaiger only got a month's worth of content because I wasn't sure how things were going to go. If I was going to be busy with parks up this month, or it'll be just how things usually are. And those plans never come to fruition, just like always. Yeah, I think out of all that I wrote, the main thing really was cool with the manga episode, because it did bleed over into the following week with the tennis. The connectivity is kind of cool, makes it feel a lot more serialized instead of episodic. And I do hope we kind of get back into the mom storyline soon, but I do feel we're saying I thought Kaiser was kind of like Stacy, but having to Stacy being part machine, but I don't think that's the case from the end of this week's episode, because he's still using his memory. So I think it's been cool, but also kind of expected for Kaiser to be Kaito's dad, considering the mom's escaped and all that, And Kaiser was a prototype ranger, had a prototype weapon that the Rangers ended up using. It does look like next week it'll be the base for the super robot. Yeah, I think do see how thing the quirkiness of the show, something more chill, laid back, kind of like a cartoon, just to get away from the stuff I'm watching in Quality TV and Queer Film and Good Doctor. Season of Good Doctor's been gone off to a very interesting start, where with a patient, the pilot has ADHD. She knows about a thing for what she isn't sure if the doctor, if they have up to the challenge. And since they all figured it out and treated her with some respect, she decided to buy out the hospital. Right? That was out of left field. I can't wait to see where her role goes, if she's gonna be Jackson Han, who kind of gets cut at the end of the season or maybe mid-season, or if she becomes a new permanent member of the cast. But anyways, we also got through the Kiramager Ryusoulger stuff of late. Was so Kira's summer movie is that Minja wanted to upsert Garza, and so she stole the Dreamstone from during the siege and at the very beginning of the series. So So basically, because of that sleep stone, that's because her evil, it curses everything. The sleep stone originally was for like goods, like a parallel world for the Crystalline royal family to go to if they want to. However, so even though Mabuchina gets cursed, people that aren't under the curse, they can still use her to get there without being hurt, and get out and confront Minjo and Remudon in reality. And I kind of felt Remudon wasn't really used until he and Minjo merged for the Megazord fight. I kind of still like the design though. And basically, the Dreamstone is one of the main reasons why we get the special combination, even though it's not like a special rowboat, even though we saw Red Shovel like that in the Dream World. And that was like toy and all that. Not really much to say on the Ryusoulger Special, but it does fit in perfectly well. Like as only when you go straight into basically the ping pong bit at the beginning of the episode where Nada dies. Straight through line. And since Ryusoulger was the first Sentai I watched before the Power series came out, it's all very special to me. If I haven't took it already, it's probably been a while since I brought that up, but so the big idea of Kiramager Ryusoulger is that the Ryusoulger are going to have a big reunion, and basically Ko's late. The others went to the theater, which is the meeting spot, and they got stuck. And so, and also Clean had to follow Wizarus, so he came back, and then Yodana abuses his power like Tank Joe and Garish did. And he ends up creating 5 different directors for 5 different genres to create his like perfect film. Create movie Jan's perfect film. And the one that movie Jan works on himself is like a high school musical type thing, where that involves the Reds and Mabuchina, but somehow Mabuchina gets out and finds Cleon. And 6 don't get involved in the movie stuff at all. They're out there. They're in the real world along. Kano's sister. Her name's escaping me right now, but Oto. Yes, Oto. The 6 and Oto are out in the real world, figure everything out. There's something I looked at on on Instagram a few weeks back about Japanese like biker culture, and like I think the name of like the type of girls from like the 70s, 80s literally translates to girls. I kind of thought that was funny, and that's kind of the vibe I got off from the girls in Pink's thing, because obviously you have the Green Rangers being together, and then you have blue and yellow and blue. The blue, you have Melto and Kamatomo together in a Casino Royale type thing. And then the other 2, Bamba and Shiguru, are in a samurai film, which really kind of fits the Japanese style. It's like 2, so I did have a cool idea, like an alternate ending based off the actual team up instead of what I actually originally planned for the whole big crossover in the Battle of New York and all that, which use more footage from BeBop Dream. Now I do think but still, I would think the samurai film is probably my favorite aspect of it, but and Tantan wants Drew to do a good job in art competition, but that's kind of stressing him out, giving him writer's block. Kind of going over the writer's block. So yeah, it's nice that Louise mentioned by Ko as if she's still around, which I think is probably interesting. They probably weren't. I'm guessing they probably weren't sure what they were going to do initially when it came to that, but do what you do. So basically, Brock breaking each bond in Toku, Quality, and Queer. But this, I think it's like a subsection of 3 shows surrounding women from Quality TV, which kind of where I kind of ended with the Quality section. So first thing was Fargo. So some thoughts comparing TV, the original film adaptation from the 90s and the premiere. So how do we start Steam? Because I was playing Park technically, but I'm thinking, I guess. And basically, the whole kind of is like, because one person was added to the job that shouldn't have been there, all hell breaks loose, and that's the guy who ends up, facing charges along with the guy who orchestrated the whole plan, get locked up at the end. The thing is, like, both of these, neither really have to do anything with the city of Fargo. Like, I think in the film, the plan is instigated in Fargo, and I think in the series, the whole crime ring is actually based in Fargo, although this is all set in Minnesota. Then we have St. Paul. And in the film, the lead works insurance. In the film, the lead is in car sales, but in TV series, in season 1 pilot, he is in insurance. And based in the series, there's kind of like a revenge story going on, and a happenstance meeting with a hitman at the hospital. And that kind of leads to the guy killing his wife, and hitman kills the guy who was actually with a prostitute, and so basically the wife of the guy the prostitute killed, basically like, yeah, he was cheating on me anyway. I'm glad he's gone. And also, Tom Hanks' brother is in the Fargo series. And we'll bring up Tom Hanks in a bit when we get to Queer Film. After Fargo, he actually, Hawley did a ABC comedy called The Unusuals. But then he moved on to this Marvel series called Legion. And I still have emotional stuff going on right after I going through Fargo, so I didn't really have time to heal from Legion. I just kind of felt very confused by it. Like, I don't like it, I don't hate it, just left confused. Then again, that makes me want to not really watch Marvel stuff, even though what I've seen on the MCU is like, I find pretty great, but don't really feel it's worth wasting my time with it. Just me. Then my professor, who's been reviewing stuff for 45 years, like, Twin Peaks definitely has to be some of the weirdest stuff that he's ever reviewed, because there's a scene in episode 3 with a dream sequence that's a whole like a segment from break to break. Little short guy dancing, and yeah. I actually thought like the very opening sequence kind of reminded me of like how it's made, like the vibes that Knobles gives off. Basically, the series follows them trying to solve the murder of the girl in Twin Peaks, Washington, which is a fictional place. And basically, they believe the boyfriend has some connection to it because he's been absent for weeks. He's not really doing his sports stuff. But I think the victim's boyfriend ends up getting locked up for the night with a whole like big fight scene toward the end where they find out that the victim and her friend were hanging out with some other guys, but they're not. I don't think they have anything really to do with it either. But because of the death, school is dismissed. This is a small town we're talking about here, but then again, it was right before semester started. Right. There was someone who transitioned in my grade, and then they ended up killing themselves before the start of senior year. Like after the first week or two, we kind of forgot about it. I kind of forgot about it until graduation came. Didn't really know him well. She did play the dwarf. I think it was an ally of Santa in our take of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe back in the day. That's great. Anyway, couldn't say her name. Anyway, so when she changed it, I guess it was okay there because she changed it to Colette before ultimately transitioning and joining at Cole. But yeah, didn't really know him well. And one thing I noticed is that why doesn't our FBI agent, who is our true protagonist, not show his badge when he arrives? Like, is this a newer like post 9/11 thing? And that's why newer shows like NCIS and CSI do that, but not Twin Peaks, which is from like 10 years before 9/11. And the main thing, the reason the FBI gets involved because this agent in particular thinks it's similar to previous murders because they're able to find a little like J tile underneath her nail, and they sound like I'm going to like whole bar at the end of this like cinematic premiere is that they're breaking a curfew that's put in place on the teenagers. And the thing is that the guy they're talking about, that's the new Donner, the victim, and that stuff is that he actually tried to save the girls' lives from danger, but failed. This big break off here is that I wanted to specifically talk about there was 1 week where Professor was absent, and his colleague over at TV Worth Watching, who was able to get a job at Rowan, she introduced us to the Queen's Gambit, and then from work we watched Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag and Killing Eve. So it's, again, kind of like Legion. There's a lot of mixed feelings I had personally toward it, but and the thing is that when Beth first arrives at the orphanage, they give them 2 things, including tranquilizers, and when they ban them, she's already kind of like addicted to them because they're supposed to have them one at a time, but she started like hiding them, and that helped her like when she started seeing the janitor guy play chess, when she was cleaning the erasers, because this is like the 1920s ish, I guess, Kentucky. So I kind of consider it, since it sounds like she's using the tranquilizers to think out her game plan. I almost view it as her kind of like cheating, but that's just based off the pilot. That could be a whole different direction. They did kind of like tease it in the beginning, like present sequence before this whole like flashback to her childhood, but yeah, I did not like Fleabag 1, but I think Revice is better at direct address narration than Phoebe's character. But then again, I don't really know Japanese at all. I've kind of learned from Toku, but not really. I quoted as an avant-garde mess. A train wreck. Like, how did that series even how that series even stay on for a full season and then get renewed twice? Got renewed twice. I think the final season even overlapped with Killing Eve's first. But Killing Eve kind of took us to alright, still has like the next week thing, at least it did when it started. So I really want to get into Killing Eve. My mom wants to get into Killing Eve. If she gets ahead of me, I'm definitely gonna start watching. And it does kind of seem like Eve gets entangled with the stuff. They don't want her to get entangled with stuff. And then basically Eve and her boss get themselves fired. And then they start their own thing. Basically to track down the assassin. One thing I did find out, one thing I did see out of Fleabag is that Phoebe's character on that show is kind of similar to Beth, as they're estranged from their fathers. Like, I don't even know if Beth's father knows she's in the orphanage at this point. That's what I've seen. And both Beth and Eve have a close friend that's a person of color, which is kind of interesting, especially considering the, like, as I said, like, Queen's Gambit kind of seems like started in the 1920s, especially with, Zenkaiger and there's a whole Christian basis on, That's one reason why I find the show quite controversial. But yeah, the very first film that we watched in my queer film class is The Boys in the Band, which is like the first, like, almost like a queer pride film where like nobody dies. Basically, they do kind of end up ripping each other apart. But what's special about this is that we're split. We watched the first half of the original film from 1970, and then we watched the Netflix one with Jim Parsons for the second half, which is kind of cool because the Netflix version for the second half adds like some flashbacks into the whole sequence, which the first film, which the original does not do that. They're a lot more hardcore against each other, actually, from what I heard from the professors. And one thing I felt was that the OG Hawley, which played by Leonard Fry, is better than Zach Quinto's role. And also, the funny thing is that Zach Quinto as Hawley looks a lot like Zach Fox, who had his own prank show on Disney XD, and he was working on Glass Entertainment when I was doing my internship there. He was like still working on how to get curls at that point, but he has his own show on Snapchat now, which is like a news show type thing. Then you have Charlie Carver, who is Tex, who they also call Cowboy in the remake. He looks like Chaz of Coast Fanatic, so it's like it's funny thinking, that one film where Zach Fox has sex with Coast Fanatic at the end of the film. It goes in my mind. Then, as I said, they all survive in the end, even though they're all like wasted. It's like they all survive. Do it again next Saturday with all their stuff that goes down. And I was kind of thinking at the end, what if we gender swap the boys in the band. So a lot of people don't like, gender swapping movies. Gender swap movies, like I don't think I've heard like people say the Ghostbusters revision sucked, and that's why we're finally getting a Ghostbusters 3. Yeah, I said I would come back Tom Hanks because he did a queer film called Philadelphia, where Tom Hanks' character has AIDS, and then his partner is Antonio Banderas. So it's interesting, like how, I know from my childhood, I think of like Tom Hanks as Woody from Toy Story, and then Antonio Banderas is Puss in Boots from the Shrek movies, and he did get a spin-off or two with just the Puss in Boots character. It's interesting. Woody and Puss in Boots. I'm sure, I don't think Puss would like it, but I'm sure Woody would ride him anyway. Not like in a gay way, but, like Bullseye or Buster, And basically, Tom Hanks is a lawyer who has AIDS, and because of that, loses his job and works with Denzel Washington's character to fight, saying that he was wrongly dismissed for his health, because somehow he'd be in a condition where he could work, and but if his health begins to decline, and by the end he dies $5 million richer. He doesn't know that he won, and then last person he's alive is his partner who's holding on to him, and it's probably about the best that we get in terms of a romantic connection between them, just in order to focus more on the courtroom drama in order to get more accepted. We did also watch the Times of Harvey Milk documentary in class. Didn't write anything really down on it, but so you know about that history, and there's more. This is like the first Hollywood take on AIDS of Philadelphia, but there are other films that we have. There's a one that we just watched yesterday that I'm going to be talking about, obviously, next time. I don't know if I actually put it in there yet. So Stranger by the Lake in here. For the one, it's either Chabelle or Stranger by the Lake. Let's check on that. But yes, I think one of these you only had I need to get good celebrity to get the sources from them, or yeah, I'll check back. I'll figure that out later. But the cool film I watched last week was Desert Hearts. And I was thinking, funny, looking at Helen Shaver looks like Rose McIver or Dolly Parton in the. Well, it's kind of interesting. What if we got Rose is about the proper age to portray Helen? So they want to do a reboot. I am putting Rose in the often for Helen. And I haven't caught up on Now Fury yet. That will be focus of the December Christmas party. But I see the formation of relationship between our two lesbian characters, and as it grows over the whole film, which is kind of cool. They have a strong chemistry. All things inside of using a lot of mass transit. And Amtrak latest kind of interesting thing in the 50s with the Pacific Railroad, because suddenly they gave up their they also sent their passenger stuff to Amtrak, but they still operate cargo in the western U.S., where the East Coast mainly split between Norfolk Southern and CSX in terms of and just what Amtrak uses to cross, outside of the Northeast Corridor. And something with the name compared to the original source materials that I think it personifies their love in the desert landscape, or to quench each other. How my friends went away, to quench each other's thirst. Speaking of quenching thirst, there was a scene earlier on with Kay, who's the other Helen. Helen's girlfriend in the film. She has her boss is kind of. And then there's one of her first scenes in the casino is a guy that grabs her, but I think it's more that the boss wants to be with her, or trying to say that she is his, other than being an example of Me Too. Although it could be read, although I think with the Me Too context, it could be read that way, even though it's the 50s, they probably wouldn't prosecute it anyway, but it could be read that way, that especially later on, that maybe he is more accepting of her sexuality, in that maybe he's just trying to be a good ally. So I could say to myself, Megan, I just want to try and be a good ally, Might want to talk to Seth about that, but probably don't go more detail than I already have on that topic. But I still think he'd still have her back. But definitely more, I think more in the aspect that he still likes her and wants to make sure everybody knows that, than just being, a good ally, doing the right thing, But I don't really have much else to say. And I'm probably going to update the thumbnail for next month anyway, because I want to get both Walter and Saul on there. So yeah. I'm Lindsay. Comment, subscribe. Strike the bell. And over here, I'll see you next month. But as I was talking about, with Mass Transitional, if you want to follow her on my theme park and, travel account, History and Leisure, there's going to be a travel vlog coming out next week. So until then, comment, subscribe, and strike the bell.